Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A very warm welcome to all of you in your English class. I hope you all are doing well. Today, inshallah, we are going to have a review of the topic King Bruce and the Spider. Furthermore, you are going to attempt a test which was scheduled for today of the same topic. Explanation of the poem. Stanza number 1. King Bruce of Scotland flung himself down in a lonely mood to think. It is true, he was monarch and wore a crown, but his heart was beginning to sink. In these lines, the poetess tells that the King of Scotland had been defeated in the battlefield. He flung himself down in despair. He was feeling very sad. He began to think. No doubt he had been crowned as a king, but the pressure of difficulties faced by him made him lose the heart. Stanza 2. For he had been trying to do a great deed to make his people glad. He had tried and tried, but couldn't succeed, so became quite sad. In these lines, the poetess tells that the King Robert Bruce had been trying to gain freedom for his country. He had fought many battles, but he was defeated. He had been doing his best to make his people happy. Due to continuous failures, he was disappointed. Stanza 3. He flung himself down in a low despair, as grieved as man could be. And after a while, as he pondered there, I'll give it all up, said he. In these lines, the poetess tells that King Robert Bruce threw himself down on couch in disappointment. He was stricken with grief. He thought over again and again and decided at last to give up the struggle. Stanza 4. Now just at the moment a spider dropped with its silken cobweb clue, and the king in the midst of his thinking stopped to see what the spider would do. In these lines, the poetess tells that just at the moment when King Bruce was thinking to give up the struggle, a spider fell down with his fine thread cobweb from the roof. The king stopped thinking and began to watch the movement of the spider. Stanza number 5. It was a long way up to the ceiling dome, and it hung by a rope so fine that how it would get to its cobweb home, King Bruce could not divine. In these lines, the poetess tells that the distance between the spider and the round roof of cave was great, and the thread of the cobweb was so fine that King Bruce could not foretell that what would happen and how would the spider reach his home. Stanza 6. It soon began to cling and crawl, straight up with strong endeavor, but down it came with a slippery sprawl, as near to the ground as ever. In these lines, the poetess tells that the spider once took hold of cobweb thread and began to climb up with difficulty. It made an effort to go right up to the roof, but it slipped and fell down on the earth as close to the ground as before it climbed. Stanza number 7. Up, up it ran, not a second could stay, to utter the least complaint, till it fell still lower, and there it lay, a little dizzy and faint. In these lines, the poetess tells that after falling, the spider at once rose from the ground without waiting to complain and began to climb on. But it fell down again quite badly. Its head began to whirl round and it lay there for a while. At that time, he became dazed and unconscious. Stanza number 8. Its head grew steady, again it went, and travelled a half yard higher. It was a delicate thread it had to tread, and a road where its feet would tire. In these lines, the poetess tells that the spider recovered its senses and climbed half a yard higher than before. The thread, however, was very delicate and there was a constant danger of its breaking down. Therefore, it was difficult and tiresome for the spider to climb. Stanza 9. Again it fell and swung low, but again it quickly mounted, till up and down, now fast, now slow, 9 brave attempts were counted. In these lines, the poetess tells that the spider once again fell down, and it was hanging in the air. But without losing any time, it moved up again. Sometimes it went up, sometimes it fell down, sometimes its progress was fast, sometimes slow, and in this way it made 9 bold attempts to reach its cobweb. Stanza number 10. Sure, cried the king, that foolish thing will strive no more to climb, when it toils so hard to reach and cling, and tumbles every time. In these lines, the poetess tells that the King Bruce said to himself that as Spider had fallen for so many times, it must have found out that it could not reach its destination and would not make any further attempts at climbing because, in spite of his hard labor and brave efforts, it could not succeed. Stanza 11. But up the insect went once more. Ah me, it is an anxious minute. He is only a foot from his cobweb door. Oh, say, will he lose or win it? In these lines, the poetess tells that the king was surprised to see that the spider was making another attempt. It was a critical time for the king. He was not certain whether the spider would succeed or fail, although it was only a foot away from its cobweb. Stanza 12. Steadily, steadily, inch by inch, higher and higher he got, and a bold little runs at the very last pinch put him into his native cot. In these lines, the poetess tells that the spider went on gaining ground slowly and surely, inch by inch. It covered the distance and it made an attempt at last moment of extreme difficulty. At last it succeeded in getting into the cobweb. Stanza 13. Bravo, bravo, the king cried out. All honor to those who try. The spider up there defied despair. He conquered, and why should not I? In these lines, The poetess tells that at the success of the spider, the king was pleased very much. He appreciated the efforts of the spider by saying, "Well done." He said, "Honor and glory falls to the lot of those who are never discouraged by failures, but they try again and again." The spider did not mind disappointment and at last succeeded in reaching his cobweb. The king said, "If a spider can succeed by perseverance, then there is no reason why he should fail." Stanza number 14. And Bruce of Scotland braced his mind, and gossips tell the tale, that he tried once more as he tried before, and that time did not fail. In these lines, the poetess tells that King Bruce resolved to fight against the enemy once more, and the storyteller tells that he tried once more, and this time he achieved a brilliant victory over his enemies. Now it is time for your class test. Please proceed with your test by clicking the link provided in the description column of the portal.